Welcome to the Sisterhood of Limitless Living. I'm Dr. April Moreno, autoimmune wellness researcher and professional helping women around the world to live their best possible lives despite the autoimmune condition. Listen in as we speak on various topics about the autoimmune journey and interview amazing and inspiring women who are living and thriving despite their autoimmune condition. Let's get started. Hello, Sisterhood. Welcome to episode number 46 of the Sisterhood of Limitless Living. Bless you. My dog just sneezed. So in this episode, we're talking about the topic of love. We're continuing with the February theme of love. And so in this episode, we're talking about caregivers, talking about a love relationship, having a spouse as a caregiver. So in this case, I'm sharing my personal story, and my spouse was interviewed on this episode to share his experience with the autoimmune journey, what he went through with the diagnosis, with the relapse, and understanding this new way of living and these new challenges, this life journey that we are continuing onward together with. I think it's a really interesting story, and I hope you enjoy it. And so I'll be sharing that. I hope your February's been going well. I just wanted to get on here as well and just tell you, I'm loving February. I'm so excited about starting my yoga training next week. I'm going to become a yoga teacher. I'm super excited about that. And also really excited because of the February 18th local multicultural integrative wellness workshop that I'm hosting. That's coming up very soon. Get your tickets if you're in the San Diego area. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you there. I just wanted to share this, something that's kind of weighing on me right now. I was just at an event. I was at a social event at a party, and somebody came in with a little scrawny dog, and it had a service vest. I'll be honest with you. I didn't think it looked like it was going to be a service dog because it was so little and wandering around, and everyone was petting it. Everyone was playing with this dog. So I had to ask, because I have a service dog, and this is important. I asked the person, "So your dog, what is it trained to do?" And she said to me, "Well, it's for me." "Yeah, but what is it trained to do?" "Well, it's for me because I have anxiety." And I looked at her and I just said, that's more like a therapy dog. And then she looked away. And then for the rest of this party, she just had all these people playing with her dog, petting her dog, and treating it basically like a dog. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because this has dangerous implications for those of us with actual service dogs. It does matter. Because of those of us in the disability community, we have service dogs that are actually trained to do a specific task. And I shared this with you all. I believe it's in episode 21 on service dogs. This is important because when we are in a situation where we can't walk or when we need assistance, we don't need someone coming around and playing with our dog. Because, their dog, my dog loves people. And if someone comes up to it and plays with it and looks it in the eye and does all these things, it gets distracted. It's going to want to play. And this is dangerous in the case where I need him for walking assistance, when I need him for balance, and someone wants to just go ahead and play with my dog. I just really wanted to get that out there. Service dogs are serious business. This is not a game. Your dog is not a service dog if it's not trained to do a specific task. You are required to be able to explain what your dog is trained to do. You don't have to talk about your diagnosis. You don't have to share what you're going through. You don't need to share the details, but you do need to be able to share what your dog is trained to do. And if you can't do that, you don't have a service dog. And this has definite implications for those of us who do have service dogs because people are getting the wrong idea now of what a service dog is about. You do not play with service dogs. You do not goof off with service dogs. If they're on service mode, they're not here to play. Take off the vest. Let the dog play like a dog. Let the dog be a dog. That's fine. But once it's got the service vest on, it is doing a job. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys because this is serious. If I'm going through a relapse and I'm having walking difficulties, I don't want people thinking that this is some kind of game. I wanted to share that with you today. And I probably should have gone into more detail with this person, but I pretty much just looked at her and said, "No, you pretty much have a therapy dog." Just wanted to share that with you guys. Get that off my chest. Let's go ahead and get started with the episode about caregivers in this episode number 46. In this episode, For the month of February, we're talking about the caregiver's experience. So thank you for listening to the Sisterhood of Limitless Living podcast. And again, the month of February is a lot of it is about love. In this particular episode, we're going to be sharing the experience of someone very close to me who's going to talk about what it's like to be a caregiver for somebody with an autoimmune condition. And so let me go ahead and introduce him to you. This is Dr. Gerardo Arellano, and he is going to share his story with you. So please introduce.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gerardo Arellano. It's a pleasure to be here, Dr. April Moreno's podcast. And thank you, Dr. Moreno, for inviting me to be here with your audience and just share my experience, my story in terms of support and what does that look like during that process of not understanding what it is, condition, to then getting diagnosed, and then understanding what it is, and then, of course, all the great work you've done around understanding the condition, ways in which to address it, treat it, and find empowerment within that process. So it's been to me just really amazing just to see you grow and find strength in your story and helping other people. I think the helping other people piece has just been really beautiful.
Oh, thank you. It's been quite a journey, so we'll talk a little bit more about that experience. So it's been about 4 years now. For me, it was just like once I got out of that experience, I saw that so many people were really having a hard time. They were really struggling with their autoimmune condition. Some people were not able to accept the diagnosis, which is fair. Sometimes it's not even a correct diagnosis, but so all of it's an experience in itself. But there are people who are having a really hard time coming to terms with everything. I would say it probably took me a couple of months to come to terms with it. But once I did, I really did feel the need to reach out and help other people with that struggle. What was the experience like when I was going through the relapse for the first time? What was that like?
I don't think I understood it. So you weren't going through the relapse. I remember I was in a meeting and you called me and you were telling me that I got in to see the doctor. I didn't know what that was. I thought it was, I also didn't think it was that serious, but I also didn't know what it was. I do remember I was in a meeting, you called me like, gee, I think this is not good. I'm scared. And when I heard you say that you're scared, say this may not be good, I immediately had a really scary sense, a feeling, within my body. And at that point, everything was unknown. So I remember going to the first doctor and seeing if there's anything, scenarios, and just, I guess the unknown, not knowing what it is. You can imagine everything goes through your mind. But more important as a husband, what's happening with my love, with my partner. I don't understand this. It feels very uncomfortable not understanding what you may or may not have. The brain, the human brain in this society, unfortunately, always goes to the worst. And you start playing all these hypotheticals in your head. And so that to me was a very scary process, not knowing what it is. But then, being able to find the right medical personnel, authorities on this topic, being able to find answers and information and resources through them. So I do remember, like, your doctor, it's amazing. Still remember the first time we met with them. And it was so funny because when we were in his office, he just has all these appointments, all these people want to go see him. So we were waiting for him for like 45 minutes.
Oh, an hour and a half.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was a long time, an hour and a half. And then, April, I remember you getting up like, all right, that's it. We're leaving. We just went in there for a second opinion. This other person had already diagnosed you. But I didn't like the other person because, I don't know, that person just seemed very transactional. It didn't seem to me like a scholar. That person knew what he was talking about. So I wanted a second opinion from a scholar who runs a think tank. When you got up and you were ready to go, I remember I didn't get up because for me, I wanted answers. I wanted to know. I wanted to get a second opinion, and I wasn't going to go back home, continue this process of not knowing what that may do to my feelings around for you and for our situation and all this stuff. So we waited, and sure enough, as soon as we sat down and maybe 10, 15 minutes later, Dr. Kill shows up. And very cheerful and friendly. He's like, hey, how's it going? La, 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 la. Immediately he went back to work. He'll pull up all your scans. And then, he's like, oh, yes. Oh, yeah. And then he just turned and looked at me, looked at you in our eyes. And he said, well, you're not going to die from this. I still remember this. It's not going to kill you. He went off in his lingo. And so I think right there, when he was able to just put my fears down and tell me what it is and what it's not, to me, I just felt a sense of relief. And then after that, April just, being able to then, because, you're a researcher and you were researching, I think at that point you were researching diabetes. And so, and then seeing you through that process and really finding a lot of information to say and how to help people, that process to me was very empowering. So at the beginning it was very scary because I didn't know what it was and how to help you. And I think that's the part that really frustrated me, not being able to help, because I didn't know. to then seeing the process where we connected with the right, scholars in it. April being a scholar, being able to do research on this topic and helping other people. I think that part right there was amazing. And it's been just really interesting just watching that process unfold.
I like the way that you mentioned the scholar. That was important to us just as researchers to find a specialist in a research clinic. So the first doctor we went to was more of a general practitioner, and he was just so whatever about it. He didn't really know how to recommend the right medication. I just didn't trust him. I didn't really believe in anything he was saying. I'm really glad we were able to, insurance would cover a specialist. I went online. I tried to find the best specialist in the county, in the city that I could trust to go for a second opinion. So I think it's really important for people to get that second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion if you need to, but just until you feel a sense of belief and that you can trust that doctor, because that first one, he would have messed me up. How did you feel about the whole experience of getting the placard? Do you remember when I got the disabled? I just went for it. I got the plates. Do you remember? I was still working on my doctorate at the time of the diagnosis. What was that experience like for you? What were you seeing?
I think for me, that experience was really eye-opening. We're both at that point in our early 40s. And here we have, my partner has access to a placard because she needs it. You do need it, especially on those hot, summer days in Southern California when the temperature hits close to 100 or over 100. Well, San Diego doesn't get that hot, but, sometimes we go East County, it gets really hot. So, and I know what that does to your legs. That was hard, right? Being able to get a placard that would allow us to park closer to the malls and to the stores, to where it is that we're going to go and do our thing was good. But I think for me, the whole identity around being disabled was something new that I needed to process. And even now, I've been driving around with the placard for a couple of years, and it's just, to me, I got more used to it, more comfortable. But I know at the beginning it was very uncomfortable to have it, to have access to it. But more importantly, what that means to my own identity as a caregiver, as a husband, transitioning from husband to caregiver, and that identity, sort of the importance of that identity, in terms of how someone relies on me to be able to provide support, was all wrapped up in that, that placard, really. So it's still something that I'm still processing, but I feel more comfortable with, and then it's still in shock, right?
I think also it helps because I'm in my 40s now, and we're heading into that decade where we're really starting to not really care about what people think, which is wonderful. I love that, being able to really not live through my day caring so much about others' opinions. So I imagine it might be a little bit tougher if I was not in my 40s when I was diagnosed. Walking into a parking lot and parking in a disabled space, I really don't care what people think. Nobody's actually said anything to me about it. I know people might be looking at me, but I'm at this age, and maybe because of my age, they assume maybe that there could be something. Just being older anyway, I think is something I don't care what people think. That hasn't been a problem for me. And I appreciate it. If I park in the city and I don't have to worry about paying the meter. If I park in the city, I don't have to worry about the 20-minute restriction. I like that a lot. Do you ever worry about the future? Do you have any concerns do you ever think about that? What's going to happen as we get older? Do you ever have those concerns about my autoimmune condition?
Yeah, sure. Of course. I wouldn't say I worry about it, but it's definitely on my mind. Mostly for me, I'm more of I like to plan things out in my head. For me, it's more like, what would April need? What would you need when we're in our 50s, when we're in our 60s? At what point should I retire so we can enjoy our lives together? And then what mobility would you have that would allow us to do X, Y, and Z? For me, it makes sense that we do a lot of our traveling now because you're super strong. You do yoga twice a day. You're very active. To me, it makes sense to plan a lot of those activities now. But I think moving forward, I think it's just appreciating your growth and the ways in which your body is going to develop over time. I need to be ready and mindful of that process. And so I think when I first didn't know what it was, I worried a lot. But now that I know what it is and I've been a part of this community via you, I'm not as concerned as I was when I was really unfamiliar with the condition. I know that if you have access to good medicine, if you listen to your body, if you take care of yourself, that everything's going to be okay. And all of us decline gradually, but all of us just decline in different ways depending on what conditions we may have. So a lot of that to me, it's part of just normal, aging. So when I put it within the framework of normal aging, human bodies are not meant to last. So we're already in our mid-40s. We're enjoying life. So I'm not concerned.
And it's so interesting because since my diagnosis, we'll hang out with close friends, relatives, and it just surprises me, but it doesn't surprise me. They always know somebody who has my condition. It's like, oh, my father had it. My mom actually has it. My husband's mom has it. And we also had a relative who actually got diagnosed the same year with the same thing, which is so unusual because there's no one else in the family with it. Just seeing them, they're doing fine as well. I think with the new treatments, the new medications, and the new approaches, new attitudes about how to live with an autoimmune condition makes such a difference. We know someone who's had it I know 2 people whose aunt or father has had it for many, many decades, and it's not even the main concern in old age now. They have other things to worry about. So their autoimmune condition it's not something that's like first in the front of their mind anymore. They have like other health concerns with age. Okay, so let's talk about the airport a little bit, because the airport's a place where I do make sure to ask for assistance, just because the airport is a very stressful place. Being in a plane can be a very stressful thing. Having wheelchair assistance ready for me when I get there and when I get off the plane is something that I like to have. And so I kind of want to ask you about that and your experience of walking around with me in a wheelchair.
I actually like that. I like the fact that we can do that. We can get you in a wheelchair so it doesn't stress your body. Your backpack, which is very heavy with all your stuff connected to the wheelchair, connect my backpack to the wheelchair. They have Wellington next to us, so that I like. I really like what you said earlier on in terms of like when you get to a certain age, you just don't care what people think or say. And so I don't care. Because I think it's a resource that you need and we're going to use it. And so I do appreciate the fact that we have access to wheelchairs and everything else. Yeah, my role as a caregiver in general, supporting you, right? Physically, with anything you may need, making sure that I check in on you, because sometimes you put a lot of stuff on yourself. And so just checking in on you and just asking like how you're feeling, how you're doing, how everything's going. And if I'm thinking that maybe you're doing too much, you just ask, really need to do X, Y, and Z. You maybe scale it down a little bit. So I think for me, it's just asking those questions that are grounded of you being mindful of what your threshold may be, because sometimes you just do so much. And to me, it's, as a caregiver, just doing the best that I can and providing support, but also asking you to reevaluate every so often when I know that you're not feeling well, and then helping you troubleshoot through maybe your calendar, your agendas, so that you can find a place where you can produce at a good pace that's not hurting you, and you're finding power in producing the outcomes that you want to see.
So basically it's about just being of support and helping out with personal boundaries with time and obligations and things that I get myself into. How do you feel now that I pretty much am not working in an office full time anymore? I work from home. Do you have any reflections on that?
I think my perspective is being able to bring in flow of revenue, making sure that financially we're solid, so that it allows you to do the work that you find passion and love in, enjoy in, so that you don't feel put in a situation where you have to go into an office if that's not where you find happiness. There's nothing wrong with being in an office. I'm in an office. It's not good for everyone, especially if folks have a condition where the office is a great place. I think, as you said, it's just being able to, there's a solid financial foundation we can both build on. But especially with you and the exciting and flexible ways in which you can do your work, and so you're self-employed.
About it, I just wanted to say thank you for supporting me and being a good caregiver.
My partner, my wife.
You're a great caregiver. Thank you for your support. Thank you for not freaking out when I got my diagnosis and, staying calm and helping me through the most difficult times. I just remember that time when we were going through the diagnosis together. It wasn't just affected you too. I know we did a lot of time at church that time for sure. We were doing a lot of time with God. I love you. Thank you.
I love you too. And I look forward in another 40, 50 years, spending time with you and being married together.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sisterhood of Limitless Living. Feel free to leave us a review on iTunes or subscribe to the podcast. For more information about Dr. April Moreno, you can find me on aprilmorenophd.com or join us at the Sisterhood of Limitless Living Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/SL3Limitless. Talk to you soon.